all you had to do was just not fuck it up. It's not that you're technologically challenged, Robert. You just are stupid, or lazy, or both. Seriously, it can't be an entire generation. How can an entire generation be so fucking worthless?
Number 2. The story. The second biggest problem with The Phantom Menace is the whole story and the way it was told.
Oh, I'm gonna need something stronger than this.
It's almost mind-boggling how complex.
Yeah, this film does have a lot happening in it. I know it's something of a meme, but the scenes in this film are really dense with content. They have a lot of world building and story elements that help establish the universe and the stakes.
The awfulness is.
Aww.
From the very start of this movie, I could tell something was really wrong, just by the way it started. It opens with some boring pilot asking for permission to land on a ship that looks like a half-eaten donut with a donut hole in the middle. What the fuck is that? Then 2 cloaked figures walk into a room in a completely flat angle. They sit down in a conference room, drink tea, and wait to talk about a trade dispute with something that looks like my ex-wife. While they eventually do get to the ball-numbing, mindless action that the fanboys crave, I found myself utterly bored already.
5 million views, 40,000 likes. Oh boy. The action isn't mindless. Palpatine is trying to overthrow the sitting Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Senate. Killing the Jedi is an easy way for him to make Valorum look weak and stupid. Bored isn't an argument, it's a perspective. I do not care if you or anyone else was bored. Tell me why you were bored. Make an argument.
Compare this fecal matter to the opening of the original Star Wars. You see, a guy named William Shakespeare once said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." This just means don't waste my time.
No, Plinkett, it means that saying as much as possible with as few words as possible is hard and takes intelligence and cunning. Have you read Lord of the Rings? Did you find the 34th page of descriptions of shrubbery particularly brief? Those are some of the best, most intelligent stories ever penned, but Tolkien took his time to tell them.
You keep it nice and simple. I said stop wasting my time. Stop it! Without saying one word of awkward, boring political dialogue that goes on for 10 minutes.
Kill them immediately.
Yes, my lord. As you wish. Captain, look!
We know everything we need to know just by the visuals. Rebels, Empire. We get a sense of how small and ill-equipped the rebels are and how large and powerful the Empire is. The low angle implies dominance, and the length of the Star Destroyer implies the long reach of the Empire. This shot says everything we need to know without saying one word. In fact, this is so genius, I have a feeling that George Lucas had nothing to do with it and probably fought against putting it in the movie.
You are much better at praising things. The opening of episode 4 is really good. It does hint at the current state of galactic affairs. However, the intro to episode 1 mirrors it completely, performing the same function in the same way. The scene starts facing into space, showing a single ill-armed spaceship approaching a planet ringed by space station. The angle starting in space and turning to show the planet implies an outside actor coming into an unknown situation. The style of starship shows an unwillingness or incapability of the Republic to commit to using or displaying military force, and their over-reliance on the Jedi Order as peacekeepers. The ring of the Trade Federation control centers looks imposing and oppressive, but the holes in their wall expose them as being essentially for show, and not effective at maintaining full control over the planet they are trying to occupy.
He controls every aspect of the movie. In fact, this is so genius, I have a feeling that George Lucas had nothing to do with it and probably fought against putting it in the movie.
Maybe he had more influence on episode 4 than you think.
So this comparison of openings is a small example of the overall styles of both films.
I agree. They both have a huge world to establish, and the subtle details are what makes them special.
The original trilogy was a modern-day homage to the classic adventure serials of the past. The kind I used to watch when I was in my 40s. Good versus evil. The classic hero on a journey. The adventurous rogue. A damsel in distress. the wise old sage, gay robots, and an epic quest of discovery.
Oh, I replaced all the visuals. I'll play it again for you with his visuals just so they're in there, but I think I proved my point.
The original trilogy was a modern-day homage to the classic adventure serials of the past, the kind I used to watch when I was in my 40s. Good versus evil, the classic hero on a journey, the adventurous rogue, a damsel in distress, the wise old sage, gay robots, and an epic quest of discovery. The new movies are about shoving as much crap into each shot as possible.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Look at all that stuff packed into this shot here. Or here. Man, so dense. Look at all that fire.
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
Okay, even if I give you this point, which I won't because it's wrong, but if I did, why is that bad?
This is part of the reason why I find the special editions so fucking offensive. Because you're into what's happening in the movie, and they keep shoving more shit on the screen to distract you. It reminds me of a child waving his arms in the background for attention.
I actually agree with that. The special editions are worse than the original cuts. Don't get me wrong, they don't ruin the movies, but the CGI was clunky and awkward, and the extra stuff in the shot doesn't add anything to the world really, or the story. They're just there because they can be. But that's where the prequels succeed. The shots that are densely packed give you information about the world around them or the scale of the conflict. I'll talk about episode 2 eventually, but in The Phantom Menace, the Clone Wars start with a small-scale battle between a small force of droids and a primitive native army on a small planet near the outer rim of Republic space, and escalate to a galaxy-spanning civil war that destroys the Republic, eradicates the Jedi Order, and begins the reign of the Galactic Empire. It isn't one-to-one, but it is at least comparable to how the conflicts and treaties between European countries launched 2 full-on world wars because of the actions of a single Serbian insurrectionist.
Doesn't Lucas realize that cluttering the frame up with shit is not what makes Star Wars good?
It's so dense, every single image has so many things going on.
Fuck you, Rick Berman. You ruined this too? Stop ruining. Wait a minute. That ain't Rick Berman. What is it with Ricks? So the film is called The Phantom Menace, and by the nature of the story, there is no clear villain.
What? Yes, there is. There's Palpatine. He doesn't, jump around and loudly announce, "I'm the villain," but you're supposed to have watched the originals. You know he's pulling the strings from the first 30 seconds of the film. And you know eventually he's gonna become the Emperor. You remember this guy, ugly, evil, terrifying, fearless, turned Vader to the dark side, nearly did the same with Luke. That's him, right there, in the hologram. He's obviously the focus of the series from the start of the film.
Hey, idiot! You're not making the usual suspects here. You're making a movie for children, right?
Supreme Chancellor, delegates of the Senate. A tragedy has occurred.
Which started right here with the taxation of trade routes and has now engulfed our entire planet in the oppression of...
It kind of feels like you answered your own question. Same as last time. These films have elements that appeal to children. They are not children's movies.
How about a bad guy in the movie whose motivation is clear?
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
But that isn't the point of this trilogy. The point of this trilogy is that our POV characters, the Jedi Knights, are blinded by their own arrogance and hypocrisy. They don't recognize that they're being used as pawns in Palpatine's game. Only after they've rid the galaxy of forces that could oppose the new Emperor's rule, created an army that is completely capable of wiping the Jedi Order out, and isolated and alienated one of the most powerful force-wielding swordsmen in the galaxy, do they realize what they've done, and by then, it's far too late. And yet, Palpatine's motivation isn't some great mystery that no one could possibly understand. It's all in the film. It just isn't directly stated or laid out. He wants to force the Senate to hold a vote of no confidence in the current Chancellor, because he has confidence that he is in a position to be nominated to take over the position, granting him an immense amount of power. To do that, he instigates a violent and deadly conflict on his own home planet between the people of Naboo and the Trade Federation, manipulates the queen of his people into calling for an action he knows the Chancellor is unwilling to take, exposing the Chancellor's weakness and corruption, all without having to antagonize anyone or besmirch his own reputation. I could talk for hours about the brilliance of Palpatine and the incredible manipulation he has done to create this outcome for himself. It is almost unlosable, but I won't yet.
The prequels should be very similar in style to the originals, because I don't like things that are different.
Icy, it's a joke. Calm down. Don't yell. He's just kidding.
Number 3, death and space taxes. So when you find yourself thinking things like, huh? Or what? When you're watching how illogical characters act in a movie, it's not really a good sign.
No, that would not be a good sign. I'm sure you've got some examples to help you illustrate this point.
Now, I've analyzed this film with a team of cheerleaders. They came up with one unanimous conclusion, that if I let them go, they promise they won't tell nobody. Anyways, so at the end of the movie, Yoda makes Obi-Wan a Jedi Knight.
Confer on you the level of Jedi Knight. The Council does.
Even though in the opening titles it says he's a Jedi Knight.
Hey, look! It's a mistake! An actual mistake. I mean, it's not plot relevant at all, because we're immediately told Obi-Wan is Qui-Gon's Padawan. And I have absolutely no idea what this has to do with any characters acting illogically. And you could make the case that the Jedi Knight is the role Obi-Wan is fulfilling on this mission, even if he hasn't officially earned that title or rank. But yes, it would be more accurate if the crawl said, a knight and his Padawan learner. Kudos to you, Plinkett. I am thoroughly impressed.
So we'll just call them Jedi Knights too. People call me a murderer even though I ain't never been caught yet. So the Jedis are there to do what exactly? According to the opening title crawl, it was to settle a dispute over the taxation of trade routes. Oh.
Plinkett, the American Civil War was waged over the taxes levied against them. They are an important part of any governance. Disputes over money can get violent and bloody quickly, and the Republic would probably like to avoid that.
So what makes the Jedi Knights experts in intergalactic trade laws?
Nothing. They aren't here to establish the legality of the blockade or argue about the finer legal points about anything. They're there to end it.
Your trade boycott of our planet has ended.
I was not aware of such failure.
I've heard that the Chance's ambassadors are with you now, and that you have been commanded to reach a settlement.
They are the Chancellor's show of force to the Trade Federation. They're an equivalent to the nuclear deterrent in this universe. They're essentially superheroes. They scare the shit out of people who would want to harm the Republic. It's the reason for their status and power in this universe.
So the Trade Federation have set up a blockade around Naboo in order to stop them from getting space supplies, which instantly causes some kind of crisis that we never see. Okay? I don't get it.
Oh, that's alright, Plinkett, I'll help you out. We don't know how long this blockade has existed. We do know that the Senate takes forever to do anything, because it's weak and bloated by corruption. It's entirely possible that the people have been without food or essential supplies for weeks, or longer. And even if it has only been a short time, it's still an oppressive force being exerted over an entire planet. There are bound to be consequences quickly for that.
Why would an organization called the Trade Federation want to blockade trade?
There's the blockade.
Probably because they're getting unfairly taxed, and a Sith Lord told them to. It said it in the opening crawl, see, it's right there. Did you miss the big yellow words and the angry hologram?
Usually a blockade is to stop something you don't want to get in?
Yes. I'm pretty sure the implication is that Naboo was the faction or part of the faction that pushed for the taxes on the Federation. And the blockade is a response to that. Like how some countries sanction others to punish them for doing shit they don't like.
You see, we once set up a naval blockade around Cuba to stop the Russians from setting up missile launchers there. It was a little event you might have heard of. It wasn't a big deal, you know, but you might have heard of it. It was called World War I. Jeez, you stupid people gotta learn your history right.
This clip has been painful for me to listen to. Firstly, because it's a joke, so obviously it's immune to criticism, but also because it sounds like he's admitting that blockades are really important military actions, and that they can lead to larger conflicts. Even though he said previously that
They were just on some kind of boring mission that they didn't really care about.
he also sounded bored, like 2 clips ago. Like this plot doesn't matter and nothing interesting is happening in it. Something's not quite adding up here.
So if the Trade Federation were like merchants moving goods and services around the galaxy, then why did they seem more like a military with armies or robots?
Oh, that's easy. See, it's right there in the name. They're the Trade Federation. A federation is a system of governance where multiple states, in this case probably planets, adhere to a centralized government but maintain their independence. That makes the Trade Federation its own nation, with independent members that exist within the Republic, but also as their own separate entity. That means they're responsible for defending their member states, and it's safe to assume they're pretty wealthy, hence the droid army. Think of the Federation like the United Kingdom, and the Republic like the EU, except instead of a democratic vote to leave, the United Kingdom decided to run a blockade of Belgium, because they were unhappy about how the French were stealing all their fucking fish.
However, if they were like a bureaucracy that was in charge of overseeing and regulating trade routes, you'd think they'd be happy about the whole new space taxes.
No, you wouldn't. That would be really stupid. Taxes go to the central government. The Trade Federation is being forced to pay taxes on their trade to the Republic. They are not receiving a tax revenue from Republic taxes. Since we know Palpatine is manipulating both sides, it's safe to infer that Naboo was either the faction or part of the faction that implemented the taxes. I already made this argument earlier. This point is stupid. They're losing money, they aren't happy, movie starts. It isn't that complicated. It's just volatile.
Unless all the taxes went straight to like a space Obama and they didn't see any of it?
It is literally exactly that.
The point is, I'm still not sure what the donut ships were there to do.
To blockade trade to the planet of Naboo, as protest for the newly implemented Republic taxes against the Trade Federation. It's in the title crawl. You literally just read it out.
And don't any of you f***its tell me that it was explained more in the novelization or some Star Wars book.
I don't need to do that. It's explained perfectly well in the movie.
What matters is the movie. I ain't never read one of them Star Wars books, or any books in general for that matter. I ain't about to start. Don't talk about them stupid video games or novels, comic books, or any of that fucking crap. I seen enough of that shit. I got Phantom Menace toys scattered all over in my basement.
Okay, he's right. Outside material doesn't matter to the quality of the film. The film should be self-contained and make sense with its own established rules. That said, movies set in the same series can and should be used to base arguments from universal functions, rules, and canon off of. But third-party materials like books and comics aren't relevant to the quality and consistency of the movie itself. Now, he's gonna do this skit in a basement. It's long, and I found it grating. It's not particularly funny or entertaining either, but I'm going to play the whole thing because I don't want to take any of this stuff out of context, and I want you to know that I'm not cutting things I don't think are relevant. And they might be relevant to you, so I'm just going to keep everything.
You see, my grandkids play with them down there when they come over to visit, and they leave that shit all over the place. Let me see if I can find some of them so I can show you. I'm going to go down in my basement now. Hold on. I got to switch the cameras. Okay, here we are in my basement. See, my grandkids, they come over and they play and they leave their stupid Star Wars shit around. The Qui-Gon sucker. They didn't even eat the sucker. What's this shit? Anakin something? What else did they leave around my basement? What's this? What is this? Some kind of Darth Maul toy? These kids always leaving this crap around. There. What's this? They left shit in my bin? My plastic bin. What is this? Darth Maul? Stupid Darth Maul. Huh? What do we got here? They didn't even open this. Naboo accessory set.
Mister.
Why didn't they open it?
Mister.
Quiet.
You just let me go. I promise I won't say anything. I'll do anything. Just let me go.
Quiet. I'm making my YouTube Star Wars review.
Star Wars.
What is this?
Don't hurt me.
Nice window.
Mister, please just let me go.
I said quiet! I'm making my review! Shut the fucking mouth! Anyway, so I realized that Senator Palpatine was using the Trade Federation to create a crisis to advance himself politically. Like that was the plot, I think.
Yes, exactly. He's controlling both sides of this conflict to push himself into a position of power. You did it! That is one of the major storylines of this movie.
But the conflict from the blockade and the subsequent invasion is the entire movie.
Well, I mean, no. It's the beginning and end of the movie. The middle of the movie is the introduction of Anakin Skywalker and the pod race for starship parts. Those are indirect results of the conflict, but the conflict itself doesn't actually influence them, outside of causing the ship to land on Tatooine.
Understanding what role the Trade Federation played in this is important.
Yes, it is. It's a good thing it's established thoroughly.
Well, you know what the blockade was about?
Retaliation for unfair taxation.
Who was getting taxed?
It was the Trade Federation.
What kind of supplies were so crucial to the Naboo?
I'm pretty sure it was established that it was mostly the food shortages. In a system like the Republic, it's reasonable to infer that Naboo relied on trade to maintain themselves. It's also possible that Palpatine intentionally crippled the planet to prepare for this exact plan. Even if we don't know exactly what is harming the planet, we know the blockade isn't normal and is designed specifically to cause political strife.
What was it, like medical supplies? Is there some kind of plague? Did they not have the capacity to survive on such a lush planet with a huge power reactor for 1 day without space trade?
Wait a minute!
You made that up. That isn't in the movie. There's no way the Republic could organize sending Jedi to dismantle the blockade in 1 day. It's well established in this movie, the subsequent movies, and the opening title crawl. I've already argued that I think it's reasonable for Naboo to be in a state where they are not self-sufficient given the political environment of the universe, even if they do have a big reactor.
You see, I would have accepted the idea of some kind of mystery villain if the basics were at least clear.
They were, and it isn't a mystery villain. Palpatine is clearly the villain.
So when two guys wearing robes come on board their ship, Rosie the robot just assumes they are Jedi Knights and tells the Shatnerians.
The ambassadors are Jedi Knights, I believe.
Even though almost every single character wears robes in Star Wars. Then somehow this robot knows or thinks they're Jedi Knights.
Yeah, Obi-Wan has a very distinct Padawan braid. The Jedi are widely recognized even outside the Republic as the keepers of the peace of the galaxy, and they all wear Jedi ceremonial robes. They are unique to the other robes, as your clip clearly demonstrates. The Trade Federation also know that the Republic will not be happy with them and their actions, but they are doing it because they are being manipulated by a Sith Lord. They are more than likely expecting Jedi.
Hey idiots, so much for the disguise.
What gave you the impression they were trying to disguise themselves? Was it when they announced themselves as agents of the Republic?
With all due respect, the ambassadors for the Supreme Chancellor wish to board immediately.
Was it Obi-Wan's signature braid, marking him as a Padawan of the Jedi Order? Or maybe when they sat patiently, obviously on security cameras, in their Jedi uniform, in a conference room waiting for their audience with Gunray?
Even a protocol droid could sniff you out. Maybe it's not a disguise, but whatever.
Oh, okay, my bad. He was joking again, guys. Pitchforks and torches down. Go home, nothing to see here.
So the Shatnerians immediately inform this mystery guy.
No, it's not a mystery. It's the soon-to-be Emperor Palpatine. He is pretty iconic in the Star Wars mythos. You aren't supposed to be guessing at who that is. It's the Grand Poobah of the Sith himself. And the film isn't hiding that from anyone.
Who they're running this scam with? A guy who looks like Satan? That Jedis are on the ship. And of course, so we can have an action scene, he tells them to kill the Jedi.
Kill them immediately.
Again, no. He doesn't tell them to kill the Jedi to have an action scene. I won't pretend like this isn't the end result, but ordering the execution of the Jedi is incredibly useful for Palpatine. First, it rids the galaxy of 2 Jedi. Big win there already. Next, if the Jedi die, the Republic will be humiliated on a galactic scale, showing weakness in not only the strength of the Jedi, who couldn't even resolve this simple trade dispute, but also in the Chancellor, for not taking more decisive action to end the blockade without bloodshed. If the Jedi live, they come back to Republic space to report that the Trade Federation attempted to assassinate them without even meeting with them, escalating the conflict between the factions and allowing Palpatine to demonstrate the weakness of the Chancellor for allowing the situation to get out of hand. If the Jedi survive, flee to the planet, bring the Queen back before she is forced to sign a treaty legalizing the blockade formally, we get the plot of the movie. The only way to stop Palpatine at this point is for the Trade Federation to not follow instructions. But they feel compelled to obey orders, as the situation they're in is terrifying, because they are faced with the wrath of the Jedi and the Republic if they refuse them.
You see, they never once went into the room to say hello to the Jedi.
I'm not going in that room. 2 men that can manipulate the fabric of life are in that room. Viceroy Gunray is an alien with a couple unintelligent mass-produced robots to back him up. And he's not exactly a stranger to the power of those trained in the Force. He's not going in that room either.
Are you brain dead? I'm not going in there with 2 Jedi.
And that they'll be right with them. But they tell Palpatine that they are Jedis. And then they try to gas them to death based solely on the hunch of a droid.
It's not just the hunch of the droid. They are deliberately antagonizing the Republic. They know what to expect. They are expecting Jedi.
The ambassadors are Jedi Knights, I believe.
I knew it. They're here to force a settlement.
Palpatine basically confirms that the Chancellor sent the Jedi on their call anyway.
The Chancellor should never have brought them into this. Kill them immediately.
They aren't in a position to question him.
Who's fucking with my medicine? Who wants a pizza roll? Email me if you want a pizza roll. Post a comment on this web zone if you want a pizza roll. Who's fucking with my medicine?
Yeah, I don't know either. That's part 2, folks, and let me tell you, this has been another massive letdown. So to wrap this all up, the arguments made were that the opening sequence wasn't as good as episode 4's, even though they're damn near mirror images of each other. The Trade Federation isn't clearly defined in their motivations, even though it's literally spelled out in the title crawl, and that the Shadownarians guessed that the guys sent to their ship wearing Jedi uniforms were Jedi, while the Trade Federation were actively antagonizing the Republic for political purposes. And look at that wonderfully disappointing like to dislike ratio. Anyone watching, seriously, comment and tell me why you liked Red Letter Media's video. I am genuinely curious. I'm going back to my corner. I'll see you next week.